Hi, everybody. Hope everybody is well this evening and enjoying a nice warm July evening. My name is Ginny Rogers, and I'm with the Dauphin County Democratic Committee. I'm the Education Chair. We're very happy tonight to bring you an education event on social media campaigning. And I want to take this moment to let you know we have some additional trainings that are coming up in the next few weeks. So please stay tuned as we'll continue to talk about those, honing your message, volunteers during a pandemic, fundraising in a pandemic, more information about the DCDC platform, and then training on being a committee person for DCDC. But I wanted to also let you know that tonight our speaker is going to be Gavin Lichtenstein, and he is the digital director of the House Democratic Committee, and he will be our primary speaker. But I also want to introduce you to Rosette Harris. Rosette, of course, is the chairperson for the Dauphin County Democrats. So I'm going to just hand it over to you, Rosette.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. As Jenny mentioned, this is the first of a series of trainings that we're going to be holding between now and the beginning of September. Our next one on August 4th, we're actually going to have a couple of our Democratic House state representatives, such as Lindsey Drew, who's running the 106. So these trainings are also a great opportunity to meet a lot of our Democratic candidates that's running on the ballot on November 3rd. Just a couple of things. We do have Joe Biden for Pennsylvania signs at the county party's headquarters. Please go to our website, dauphindems.com, or you can call us at 717-233-1321 if you need or want to sign for him or any of our candidates. If you'd like to volunteer, especially, please sign up on our website. Again, that is dauphindems.com. As we all know, change happens at the ballot box, and we need all of you to make sure that our candidates win. So with that, I would like to bring up our speaker of tonight, and thank you for joining. Also, if you have a question about social media or anything about digital marketing, please type it to us. And at the end of Gavin's presentation, we will bring them up and he can answer them for you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be joining you this evening. As they both said, I'm Gavin Lichtenstein. I'm the digital director at the Pennsylvania House Democratic Campaign Committee. And first of all, let me just say thank you for all the work you are doing to help and support local Democrats in Pennsylvania and across the Commonwealth. You know, the work you are doing is just so important, and it is being felt in every corner of the state as we work together to elect a Democratic majority in Harrisburg and across our Commonwealth, so that Pennsylvania has a few more shades of blue in November. So tonight I'm going to be kind of talking about three kind of major things, and the first being looking at, there's a lot of digital platforms out there, and it can get overwhelming. How can we use the right channels to reach your audience? And I'm going to talk a little bit about what your audience means and how we can use these tools and resources to engage voters, and so that they can be really a vehicle for every other aspect of your campaign. The second thing I would like to talk about tonight is digital ads, and how you could possibly use ads primarily on Facebook and Instagram to achieve, your goals. And then finally, I'll wrap us up with some digital fundraising kind of best practices and um, content like that. And then I would love to take your questions, because as much as so much of this stuff, I believe you already know and you already have confidence in using. And yeah, sure, I might be able to offer a few tips here and there, but I do believe a lot of the fundamentals, a lot of this will already make sense or might be a refresher. So I would love to hear your questions on where I can meet you and how we can work together to build the best possible digital content right now. So first is, right now it is very easy. Right now is a very interesting time for digital content. And I mean that to say is because we're seeing some of the highest digital engagement rates we have ever seen in email communication, on Facebook engagement, and also Twitter and Instagram engagements. The reasons for this might vary, but the global pandemic is certainly having an impact on that. People, as you know, in your community, and you see it in your own life, people are working from home right now. People, in some circumstances, are unfortunately not working or have been furloughed, and they're using Facebook and they're using online media as as a source of comfort, as a way to connect with people once again. So right now, it's really important to lean into that and to focus on that even. Understanding that we should be posting more digital content right now because that's where the people are. And so when we look at digital content, it can get very overwhelming when we look at Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and say, do I have to use all three? What is the best for us, right? Well, my answer has always been, you need to know what your goals are first. You should not just have a Twitter because other people have a Twitter, or you shouldn't just have an Instagram because that person has an Instagram, right? Everything you post and every platform that you're on should be used as a vehicle to achieve your goals. That goal could be fundraising. That goal could be reaching voters. That goal might be pushing out content to raise awareness, raise name ID among younger voters. But everything you post has to go back to those fundamental goals for why you are posting it. So something to think about when considering a Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. These are the three major social media platforms that get used often in political communication. The first being Facebook is probably the most common, and Facebook is probably the one where you will see the most success. The reason for this is it is the easiest to build community. It is easiest to use Facebook to build a digital community centered around the same goals, values, and likely people. And side note to that is Facebook also makes it. Facebook is the easiest platform for advertising, for sharing, for making digital content that is shareable, that can get more people involved. I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But Facebook is probably the only platform where I would say that's a platform that everyone should be communicating on because it is the easiest way to build that organic and paid connection. Now, Twitter, and one other thing about Facebook that's really interesting is it's important to know who's on Facebook. And this has changed a lot in the last decade. Right now, Facebook is primarily an older demographic. 35 and older, 30 to 65 is really the wheelhouse for the people that are primarily on Facebook. It doesn't mean other people aren't on Facebook, but the audiences, the Generation Z and baby boomers and the older millennials are the ones that have really been more accustomed to it and we see the highest engagement rates. So knowing who is on each platform is important to identifying those goals. Side note to that, Twitter and Instagram are primarily younger audiences. And with Twitter and Instagram, it is so crucial that you really have defined goals for what you are trying to achieve on these platforms, because it is harder to build that community on Twitter and Instagram. It is harder to um, post content that is as shareable or as engaging um, on Instagram specifically. It still can be done. That's not to say it can't. But Facebook is primarily a better resource for building that community, and I would focus on that when you're looking at the digital content that you're the goals you're trying to achieve when building community, when getting people involved. Now, when looking at what to post, it's a very important discussion, because nothing you post should just be posted. Everything you post should go back to those fundamental goals for what you are trying to achieve. You should not just post because it's on my calendar, I need to post something. Everything you post should go back to those fundamental goals for what goes back to your message, your candidate's message, the platform in which what you're trying to achieve. Now, for this, I broke this down into kind of a digital message box, and this is how I would encourage you to think about how you're posting your digital content. The first is, making sure that the content is local, and making sure that the content really represents your narrative and represents your values for why you are running, or the things you believe in. Healthcare, for example, raising the minimum wage, protecting workers, protecting working families. These are all the fundamentals of the Democratic Party, and these are these are the issues that you really want to try to share as larger narratives. We all like a good story, and digital is a great way to capitalize on that. So instead of just, sharing a post about X, Y, and Z, take control of the post and share a story about how it is personal to you, how the issue of healthcare, your narrative, your values about how this issue is personal. That is where we start to see the highest engagement, is really when we see digital networks tap into that personal element that, to be honest with you, people are looking for in their politics right now. People see what's happening in Washington, and they're actually looking for digital content that is, more engaging, more personal, and shares a more of a story. And then, kind of the last thing I'll say about the digital message box is make sure that you're giving people resources so that they can get involved. Some people through social media will be seeing your post for the very first time, and that's exciting. That's a good thing. We want to make sure that they have the resources to get involved, to stay engaged, and hopefully on November 3rd, vote. Resources can look like many different things, especially right now. It could be a fundraising link. It could be a pick up a sign. It could be a sign this petition. It could be visit our website to learn about this, this, and this. So, but giving people that, the ability to learn more, to get involved. It's almost like meeting, it's a way to meet people halfway. Meet them at the 50-yard line so that they can get involved, so that they can learn more about what we are doing. And that's important with organic digital content as well. So now that I talked a little bit kind of about like posting and stuff like that, I want to talk a little bit about ads, because ads are a big space right now. One thing that changed this year, and likely will change a little bit more. It potentially could. Facebook has made it so people can opt out for political ads this cycle. Now, what is that going to mean? That is going to mean more people. People will basically have the option to check a box saying, "I do not want to receive political advertising on Facebook." Okay, so that means, and this is really important. That's going to put the emphasis on organic content. So we are going to actually need to push more organic content through our social media. And when I say organic content, I mean um, post on Facebook that you're not putting money behind. That's what I mean by organic content. So we are going to have to be more strategic. We're going to be more disciplined in the organic content that we're pushing out there, because people are going to have the option to say, I am getting beat over the head with digital ads. I need a break. And people are going to be able to turn off that function on their news feeds for the first time in the history of political communication in the Facebook era. So organic reach is going to be really important with digital ads. Now, how to do digital ads? It is You'll be able to basically go to your settings, authorizations. Facebook's changed it a little bit this year, so if you haven't done so yet, I would start the process now, because it can take some time with Facebook. I would say 2 to 3 weeks. And so make sure you do that now. What Facebook basically needs to do is, in order to run ads for a campaign, for a political organization, anything like that, you'll need to. You will need to create a disclaimer. So paid for by friends of dot dot dot. And to do that, all you'll have to do is you're going to need a email address associated with a website. So it could be, if the website is dauphincountydems.com, you would need an email associated with it at info@dauphincountydems.com. So that's the only big change this year, is you will need a email associated with a website. Facebook has put out tons of resources on this, so I would encourage you to just go on to, this is something you can easily go on Google and just check out new disclaimer approval process, and Facebook will give you the right resources. Facebook has changed this policy on purpose to make it so your accounts are more secure, you're safer, and that people know where the ads are coming from. Facebook has an ad library. If you Google Facebook ad library, you'll be able to see the archives, and you'll be able to see where money and resources are being spent on Facebook. I encourage you all to do it, because it's a great resource to see where digital advertising is online, and what conversations are happening on Facebook in the political world. So that's a little bit about ads. I know it can sound complicated and could possibly overwhelming, but there are so many resources out there. Facebook, this process is new, so with anything new, there are some speed bumps along with it. But seriously, Facebook, and there's also, I'll also talk a little bit about the type of Facebook ads. You'll hear the term often of boosting. Basically, what that is you are getting an existing post. So let's say it's an endorsement post. You are basically going to that post and putting $5 to $10 behind it, and then you are putting money there. You are, putting financial resources behind it to reach more people. Facebook makes these campaigns these networks, these campaign committees, Dauphin County's Facebook. Facebook makes it so it's almost a pay to play. So even if people like your Facebook page, you actually still need to put money behind it for people to see it. This is a design of Facebook. Facebook has chalked it up this way on purpose for whatever reasons. So know that even if you have 50,000 followers, people always won't be seeing your post. Putting money behind it is a way where more people will see your post. But absolutely, always be more conservative, I would say, especially with budgeting your resources and money with boosting, making sure that you have the targets right, and so that you're not wasting money. You're putting the resources in you're allocating them to the right places. Now with everything, honestly, and this is the truth, everything in communication and political communication really does go back to communication. And that is especially true with organic digital media. And what I mean by that is, you know, in order to share content, it's important to have strong relationships with the people in the other digital people in the world. Being able to work with other organizations and say, hey, we just did a Facebook Live. Would you mind resharing it to your group? And then that's how we are more disciplined. That's how we are better communicators. And that's how we ultimately share our message in a way that reaches the most people when we communicate with other organizations on our content. And that is so important, especially right now where everyone's news feed is seeing a million things at once. Having that discipline and having that communication to talk to our peers really is what it is. And you're having a conversation saying, hey, we're doing this at 7 o'clock. Would you mind resharing it? And that then amplifies. And that then brings a ripple. So organic content is so important, but communication with others who are organizing these digital media accounts is also important. So just like we would Rolodex a candidate, right? We would also, Rolodex, do a digital Rolodex. Find out, okay, who is running the HDCC's social media? Who's running the PA Dems social media? Who are running these organizations? And build those relationships. Take the time to introduce yourself. Take the time to build that foundation so that when you have content to share, you can then reach out, and vice versa. When they need content, they'll have a relationship with you, and that is how the best and strongest digital content is made possible, when we collaborate and when we communicate what our goals are, when we communicate our resources. And that's how we really start to flood the zone with digital content and really start to reach the right people so that we can have the biggest impact. Now, the last part is that I'll talk a little bit about is digital fundraising. Now, it's been a myth probably since I think it's probably a myth since like the Obama era, maybe a little bit before that. Is if you sew up an ActBlue, you will get fundraising will just come in the door. You will receive $30,000 in the first 20 minutes, and wonderful, everything's great. Well, as most people know, it rarely works that way, and digital fundraising is actually very difficult. digital fundraising online in this regard. And what that means is always keep in mind political digital media is really only about 12 years old, which is incredible. I mean, it is really only 12 years old that we're using these vehicles to communicate through social media. And honestly, we just aren't at a place yet, I believe, where people see an Act Blue and feel super comfortable putting in either credit card information or personal banking information. I do believe this will be an obstacle we will overcome at some point, especially in the near future. But we're not there yet, especially at this level of the ballot and supporting local Democrats. So, digital fundraising can be very difficult, but that doesn't mean it's not worth a shot, and it's not a vehicle to support your fundraising. But I wouldn't use it as a one-stop shop. I would use it as a resource in your tool belt to use sparingly. Now, with growing followers and really engaging list, there's some different ways to do this. I would with growing followers and also increasing your email list, if that's a program you have. One thing I would do first is I would recommend that you download all your contacts from Google, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Facebook, you will only be able to see the emails of people that follow you if their account is public, but you'll still be able to get a good, you'll still be able to collect emails from that. Google, you'll be able to download them as a spreadsheet. Same with Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, excuse me. So that's a way to just harness your network so that you can then use them to then as a vehicle to support your digital operation. Getting followers can be a little bit more tricky, I'd say, but it's still doable. Always, content is king. Okay, so the most important content will always do best, despite beliefs that certain times of the day do better, which is true. You should always still be looking to post the best possible content. The best possible content will always be what gets you more followers, more a larger digital community, more organic shares. Content that people want to engage with is often authentic. It's often personal stories. It's often telling that story that's authentic, that didn't come from quite frankly, like a campaign person like myself in Harrisburg, but it came from the candidate and it came from their heart, and it speaks volumes to why they are running. So I would keep that in mind. And whenever you're posting content, yes, it should always, go back to that fundamental of what is our goal, what are we trying to achieve, but it should also be authentic. So many times we hear, going back to what we were talking about earlier, is having to be on Twitter. If you're not authentic on Twitter, then there's no point to be on Twitter. So use the platforms that are authentic and that highlight your voice and passions and for what you stand for and what your candidates stand for and what you are fighting for, what those values are. Never just do something because you hear, I have to be on ... That's not how we're going to build a digital community. That's how we actually make a big mistake. So these are kind of the overall general principles of digital communication in the world of COVID and how we can use these resources to support every aspect of our digital campaigns. With that, I will yield the remainder of my time on the floor and would love to hear your questions. I know I just threw a lot at you, so would love to hear any of your input and how I can be more of a resource.
Our first question is from James Williams. He would like to know, how does he establish a Facebook Live program?
Okay. Yeah. So, is this for a candidate, or is this for a? Will this be a personal page, or will this be like a campaign page?
He doesn't specify.
Okay. So, one thing with Facebook Live is it is very user friendly to do. You'll basically just have to go into, like, you'll be writing a post, and then you'll basically just hit go live, and you'll be able to do that instantly. One thing I would say though is just like we would make a calendar for digital content, you should also make a calendar for Facebook Lives and content like that, so that nothing just magically happens, right? So that it is, in the calendar saying, okay, we are going to do a Facebook Live on this date. And also, like, prime your audience is really important with this. Is if you're doing a Facebook Live on 3 o'clock on Tuesday, setting out a hey everyone, I'm going to be doing a Facebook Live from Harrisburg on Tuesday at 3 o'clock. Really set your calendars. I'm really excited for the day, and be following. So you'll be able to follow the work that we're part of. Like content like that, it primes your audience so that they can be engaged. And the great thing about Facebook Live is, as you see on your own networks, everyone gets a notification. So unlike a post or anything else, Facebook Lives are hugely effective in the with the reason being, you get a notification and people will see, oh, Dauphin County Dems just went live, and they'll click on it, hopefully. So resources like that can be really important to tapping into those audiences.
He did respond to your question. He said it would be for both. So both for a personal page and for campaign. So would your advice be the same for both?
Yep, advice is the same for both. They both stay the same. It's the same setup process.
Okay. Cheryl asks that you notice with a lot of Facebook events, it's usually the supporters, the same people, and not new individuals. Do you have suggestions on how to reach out to more people other than boosting posts or taking out ads?
Yeah, that's really interesting. First of all, events are great on Facebook, and I encourage you to keep using them. They are so important to people, to gauge involvement, to engage people's interest in events, especially now where there are so many virtual events. It is really important that we utilize the tools Facebook already has established, like Facebook events. So I'm so glad to hear that you're using it. It's a great resource. How to get more people involved in them? That is a great question, because it really goes back to the priming the audience. I'd say is just keep promoting it, having a schedule where you might post about the event 2 to 3 times before the event, but that's a good thing. That's more people seeing it, making sure that you're promoting it at different times in the day, so when people come on at various points in the day, they see it. And then just like you would, goes back to those relationships that we talked about earlier, is being able to reach out saying, hey, we have an event coming up, can you reshare? Or people like specific goals. Can you share this to 5 friends right now? and make that the status. Make it a goal that you are trying to make 100 shares in the first 24 hours. Giving people concrete discipline goals has been really effective on social because people see it and they go, huh, okay, like that, like they need me, or they're and some of it might be out of pity, which is okay too. They might say, they're only at like 6 followers, I better help, and they'll still share it. And you know what? People are still going to see it because of it. So really, communication with it and priming the audience can be really how you get an organic social media event off off the ground. And finally, I'll add to that is um, people need to hear it from different voices. So using digital amplifiers to share that event, to share that content is important. So it uh, might be a local candidate. It might be the co-chair of a local candidate, and then it might be students for Biden or whatever the organization be. There are three different networks right there that are amplifying the message, and people are seeing it different ways, and you're tapping to different networks along the way. So with social media events, identify possible amplifiers that you'll be able to connect with, that you'll be able to help share the message with.
Would you uh, do you agree that like when you create a Facebook event, if different people invited people to the event from their individual friends lists, that could maybe help?
That's great. Yeah, and that's like the strength of Facebook and that community that we don't see on Twitter or Instagram as well. That's the community that we see on Facebook that makes it so effective for digital events.
Our next question, Donna would like to know, do you have a secret on where to find creative content for Instagram for an organization?
Oh, that's great. So two things I would say this is, to be in digital media, to be in political digital media, you are constantly a student of digital media. And what I mean by that is constantly, and I do it myself, I'm constantly looking for digital content and either designs or how other resources are communicating. And, we are looking at what's already out there. We are looking at content and saying, okay, I see what they did there, and often, we'll be able to recreate it or at least make it, similar in that regard. So be a student of, digital political media and see what other content people are doing to, amplify their message. Second is, um, resources like Adobe. They can be pretty expensive, and they can be pretty complicated, and it might be more trouble than it's worth for some organizations. But there are now resources like Canva, Canva, Canva. Some of you might be familiar with it. That's a website. There's a free option, and then there's a paid option that's like $12 a month. Both are tools that come with templates for Facebook, for Twitter, for Instagram, for pamphlets. They have dozens of templates. So if you're looking for how to make digital content and maybe that's not your wheelhouse of creating content, I would look at resources like Canva. I think they can be a great resource to building out content. And I would also say to that is um, can digital media, digital content can be a volunteer activity. A lot of these resources, especially right now, there's going to be a lot of college students who don't have summer internships, or the summer internship they wanted isn't possible right now. So using them to build their portfolio, which I think is so important for young students in politics. Two, it gets them involved in the campaign in a way that is more personal. And three, I think they get to see their content shared more broadly, and they get to see their work shared for a cause they believe in, which means a lot. So resources like that, college students and young volunteers like Canva, I think will be very capable of using. A lot of them are already using it in college, so I would certainly lean into it and really utilize their knowledge with it, because I think it can save you a lot of time and be a great tool for them and you.
Now, this is a party question.
Okay.
Jeff would like to know, does the county committee, and I'm sure this is also for state as well, have set messages for the party and for specific candidates, or do the candidates handle their own messaging? Regarding the county party, candidates run their own campaign. As a county party, we assist them. So yes, candidates create their own messaging. With that said, here in Dauphin County, the county party, we do have our own platform that really explains the values of the Democratic Party. And we are planning on holding one of these Facebook Live events on the platform so people know what we stand for as a party. And that will be in late August. So please look for that event if you want to know what we stand for here in Dauphin County, on our website at www.dauphindems.com, or of course, we will also create a Facebook event for that. I don't know, Gavin, if you have an answer for his question on messaging and candidates versus a party.
Yeah, I would just say, the thing we love about Pennsylvania is our diversity, and our diversity is the greatest strength. So things like candidate messaging really needs to be personal to their community, their values for why they're running. That's certainly nothing that I or anyone could in Harrisburg would have any impact on. It's really important that it's personal to their values and why they're running to serve their community.
And can you please repeat for James the website with the templates?
Yeah, of course. Canva.com. CANVA. So it's like canvas except without the S.
That seems to be the last question. Do you have any last remarks that you would like to say, Gavin?
Really, just thank you so much, for having me, and B, thank you for all the work you are doing. My job at the campaign committee, working with people like Sawyer Neal, who's our Central PA regional desk, is really made easier by the support that you're doing. So really, thank you for what you're doing for just not Up Ticket, but local Democrats too. It is where our hearts are, it's where our passions are, and it's where we see the most change in Pennsylvania. And so really thank you for the work you're doing. It is so noticeable, and I'm so proud to be working on this team with all of you. So thank you for what you're doing. Brighter days ahead, and please, you and your family stay safe. Thank you for having me, as always.
Well, Jenny's going to close out the program, but as chair of the party, I'd just like to thank you for doing this training for us. And just remind everyone, please go to our website, www.dauphindems.com, to learn more about our candidates and to find out more about upcoming events with the county party. I would just like to highlight that we are having an event with the Attorney General, Josh Shapiro, on April 30th. And you can also find out more about the event on our website.
All right. Thank you so much. I want to also say to Gavin, I appreciate your being here and giving us your feedback. There's a lot here to think about. And all of you who joined us tonight and spent your time watching, thank you very much. Please stay tuned. Keep watching your Facebook and other areas so you can see what we have coming up in the future. You guys have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.